Well, I'm Jim Fuller. I like AKs. I've done a lot with them. I still intend on doing a lot more with them.
I guess it doesn't really take a whole lot of introduction. I think anybody who's tuning in knows who we're talking to.
Yeah,
Uh,
pretty much.
Well, I mean, I've been kind of low key for the last 5 years, and there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that. But um, I mean, I used to be in everybody's face in this industry, and then when I sold RD, I just kind of went. I had different motives. You know what I mean?
mm,
Different things I wanted to do, and public figure was not one of them. Not at least in the gun. I really kind of got burnt out on it. But it's a necessary evil, and we're about to release new guns, so here we are.
all right. Well, Mr. Jim Fuller, welcome to Whiskey and Windage, brother.
Yeah,
Glad to be here, man. It should be fun. I look forward to it. And
yeah. So let's go
thanks
ahead.
for having the relic.
The relic.
The
Let's
legend, the goat.
yes. Let's go ahead and get started. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring you in, and the first thing we are going to do is we are going to bring you in, and we're going to our AI section. So what our section is, Jim, is we have asked this smart thing AI to tell us who Jim Fuller is. And so here we go. So it says, Jim Fuller, the AK guy, is often called the American godfather of AKs. He is the founder and owner of Fuller Phoenix, LLC, a company focused on designing and manufacturing the modern AK platform. Before Fuller Phoenix, he was heavily involved with Rifle Dynamics, a company that upgrades, custom builds, and teaches classes on AKs and variants. Fuller's been building, modifying, and innovating the AK rifle since the 1980s. His philosophy is that AKs should be fighting rifles, not just weapons for hunting or target shooting. He emphasizes reliability, durability, and practical performance. With Fuller Phoenix, his goal is to define the next generation of Kalashnikov family of rifles, combining the proven aspects of the AK with modern enhancements.
That's pretty close. I'm
Pretty close.
surprised. It's,
It knows you.
I mean,
It knows you.
it's fucking scary. I still remember the fucking Terminator shit.
My inner John Connor's like freaking out.
Didn't you? It's like all this AI shit. Didn't you guys watch fucking Terminator?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
I need your
I
cloak,
think
your boots, and your motorcycle.
I think it definitely does a really good job at reading people's websites, though. And
Yeah.
anything ever published in a online
It's a
gun
glorified
magazine
search
or-
engine.
Yeah,
It's a
Mhm.
glorified
it just does
modern
the
day search engine.
filtering
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, I think the more prevalent you are on the internet at some point in time, if you've ever been there, if you've ever been a public face in any capacity, it's going to know who you are and it's going to read off of that. So, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's really interesting that you can ask who you are or who this is, and it just kind of gives it out to you. So, that's
Travis got a pair of those Apple glasses. Have you guys seen those things?
Yeah,
mhm.
Mikey's got
That's
some.
fucking insanity, man. He walks in. I go, what the fuck's with those glasses? He goes, they look like you look like that fucking broad on MSNBC. But he got pissed off when I said that. But he looks at something. He goes, watch this, and he looks at something on the thing. He goes, what am I looking at? And it fucking told him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
What? I mean, this is like a
it's
walking encyclopedia. What am I looking at? And it tells you what the fuck it is. Yeah. Fuck.
Yes.
I don't want to be in
So,
this. I don't want to be in this anymore.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because I've got a pair of them, and if I'm cooking something, because I was just wanting to see, the wife was making cookies the other day, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna sit in with her, and it's like, all right, we want to make some cookies. How do we make these? And it's literally watching what we're doing, and it's telling us what to add next. And I'm like, oh
Wow.
gosh, I don't like this. I mean, the cookies, the cookies were good, but I don't like this.
that's pretty neat.
Yeah. That's like, okay, I'm putting my brain on permanent vacation. I don't need you anymore.
Pretty
And
It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah. But hey, that's that's progress, right? You know,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
progress, right?
If
Yeah, sure.
that's what we call it.
So, Jim, I guess for the one guy who's living under a bridge who may not know you, why don't you why don't you tell a little bit, tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do, what you're known for in the community.
Well, I'm Jim Fuller. I like AKs. I've done a lot with them. I still intend on doing a lot more with them. And that's really about it. You know, I don't like to get into the I did this, I did that thing. Most people know what I've
Yeah.
done. You know, and the main thing was is I always wanted to when I got into this stuff as a business anyhow. There really wasn't much of an AK community, and I just really wanted to have one. You know, people that could share this stuff with, and that all stuff evolved. You know, doing armors, videos, Red October, all these different things that we did over the years to um, drum up popularity and raise the support of the gun. I think actually worked, and you know, Clayco, 47.
Yeah.
He came to me early on. He was just a little skinny little fucker. And he says to me, he goes, "I want to do the same thing you're doing. I want to start a shoot just like you're doing, and I want to do this. What do I do? What do I do?" And so, you know, I coached him a little bit and said, "Do this, don't do that. You might want to do this, you might not want to do that." And then he created Clash Bash, you know, and more power to him because that's the kind of stuff that made our industry grow and the kind of
Mm.
things that I wanted to see from when we did the stuff that we did. So it's kind of like starting a ball rolling downhill and seeing where it goes from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I guess when you grew up, were guns part of your, your family life growing up, or was it something you found on your own, later in life? I guess that's my main question there.
Well, when I was a kid, we didn't have any in particular. My mom wasn't particularly my father was murdered at a very young age, so she didn't really like guns because you know, it was a gun involved in his murder. And but my uncle, on the other hand, he was a man of World War II generation, and in
Okay.
those days, men taught kids how to use guns. You know, that's what
Yes.
it was, and he was that way with me. And I'll forever, you know, that guy was my father figure for my whole life. He was a good man, and I learned a lot from him. I'm grateful for having had him in my life because he's the one that exposed me to guns. And in his case, you know, guns were in those days were a hobby. They were a toy, a pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, hunting, fishing. Nobody really thought of them as defensive things in those days because we didn't have crime back then. You know, and we're talking about the early '60s through the '60s and that. You know, I mean, I was born in '56, so I think the first time I got a gun put in my hand, it was a BB gun, and I was probably 10 years old, and it was my uncle. And the discipline of the gun, and that's one thing I really wanted to stress a little bit here because I think the internet has caused us to lose the discipline of the gun. And that's something that my generation grew up with. And a lot of younger people, because of, you know, the flash of the internet and all the crazy stuff, you know, mag dumping into trash piles and stuff. I mean, that's cool. It's fun. You know, I do it too, you know, um, but it kind of takes away from the discipline of the gun a little bit. And I feel fortunate that I was raised on that concept because um, a lot of people weren't. And a lot of people, uh, put us in a really bad light because of it. Uh,
Yeah.
you ever familiar with a guy named Black Rambo?
Heard his name before a couple times. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no offense, has nothing to do with the fact that dude's black, but you ever see that dude handle a gun, you will leave that range faster than shit if they don't throw him off first. You know, and he's a perfect example of somebody that was created by the internet of doing stuff like that and just totally ignoring the discipline of the gun. You know, but getting back, you know, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole there. We could go on that for hours, but getting back to it, you know, my uncle says, you know, this is a BB gun. You can do this. And, you know, he was a Marine, he was a, you know, World War II dude, and rifles were a big thing for him. And he taught me a thing called quick kill. How you could use a BB gun to look over the top of it and you could see the BB and learn how to point shoot basically. And,
Yeah.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And, when I got good with that, he got me a bolt action 22. You know, single shot, bolt action 22. Again, discipline of the gun. You're going to be safe, boy. You did okay with the BB gun. Now you got to learn how to use a rifle. And this is the smallest basic rifle there is.
Yeah.
And that's what I had, you know? So, and eventually that, you know, I like to, I like to point out that when I was going to school as a kid, plinking after school was a big deal. A lot of the kids did it in those days. I
Yeah.
grew up in Central California, rural area, where there's a lot of farmland and stuff. So there's a lot of places where you can go safely plink and have fun and do the kind of things kids used to do with guns like that. And I mean, I remember taking my 22 to school and sticking it in the cloak closet, along with all the other guns that the other kids had, so we could all go plinking after school. It was a pretty common thing. Nobody ever even thought about shooting another kid with it. It was a toy, more than anything. It was a toy with responsibility, the
Right.
discipline of the gun. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it just you're bringing flashbacks of my childhood up, because I didn't have the place to plink at my parents' house, but when I would go to my grandparents, lots of room, and it never seemed to fail. If I was outside of the house, I had a BB gun in my hand. It's just what it was. And you shot everything from pop tops to rocks to trees to, you'd try to shoot some animals if you could shoot them, but I mean, it's just, that's what you did.
I remember we were on a canal one day with my uncle, and I saw a frog, and I said, "Hey, can I shoot that frog?" He says, "Yeah, if you want to." So I did. And then he had a lesson plan for me. When we went home that night, that frog was served to me for dinner. And he says, "You killed it, you eat it." He says, "You kill an animal when you're hungry. Otherwise, why are you fucking killing it?" Well, he didn't say fucking, but he was trying to get that point across,
Yeah.
I ate the frog. To this day, I don't like him.
Still don't like frogs. So
But it was a valuable lesson, it was a valuable
Yes.
lesson, I mean, to this day, I'm a big animal guy. I love dogs. I love cats. If you know about my son, do a search on Ian Fuller. He's the nomadic animal king. But I'm the one with my furry and feather friends. I only own guns for shooting people. Period.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a hunter myself, but I eat the game animals I kill. I don't eat coyotes, and I have killed a few coyotes, but
They are a nuisance. I have to admit that when I was a kid, growing up in San Diego, coyotes the bounty was $15. You bring in an ear and a tail. And that was a really good way to rake up beer money on the weekend. We go out Friday after school and whack a bunch of coyotes, cash them in, and we got money for the weekend.
Exactly. Right.
I've always been that innocent.
But a frog, it's like, what'd that frog do to you? Come on.
I know, that's it. A coyote's a nuisance. A frog's just a frog.
Yeah. So Jim, how did that how did that introduction, I guess, what's the timeline look like a little bit? So it sounds about like 1965, 66, you started shooting BB gun, which turned into
22
preteen or teenager with a 22. How does that road continue to Jim Fuller becoming the GOAT of AKs in America in the 1980s?
There was a lot of water underneath that bridge, man. And
there is. All right. So the abridged, the short abridged version, I guess.
Well, I in my early youth, I mean, you had a question on there about what some of the most surprising things people would want to know about you, and this is probably one of them, and that is, in my early life, I was a musician, and that's my
Les
82
Paul.
Les Paul custom on the wall.
I'm going to ask what year it was. I love the sunburst, the maple sunburst. That is
it's a beautiful. I actually acquired that from a trade from Greg Wong, a good friend of mine here in Arizona. He's a social media guy that used to work for Haley, and I traded in my NATO AK for that. So,
right on.
But it's a beautiful guitar, and there's a few others in here. I have several of them here, but honestly, music for me was not only a path, but it was a savior. Most of the kids my age, I mean, honestly, all the guys that I grew up with are now dead or in prison. They're just they but I had other things I could do. I had a love for life, for one thing. A lot of other people didn't in those days. But the fact that I had the ability to do this music thing, I could entertain people and make money for it. Not much, but you could get by. And it became my life for about 10 years. And
Oh,
then
wow.
that's when I really began to see a lot of differences. I didn't do well in the musical career because I didn't really like the people. Now that I'm
Yeah.
older and I look back, I see the kind of people I was dealing with no wonder I didn't like them. They
Yeah.
were fucking weird people. The music industry is full of some fucked up people, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Apology. I know a lot of guys in it, but
There's
you all know it's
people
true.
out there.
You know, I had this discussion with Zoltan Bathory, and he says, "Oh, Jim, you don't know what weird is till you get to my level." I can only imagine,
Yeah.
what that dude's seen and been through. But I do credit that to the fact that I didn't end up going down the same path as a lot of other guys, a lot of my peers at that time, because I had the ability to do that. Um, was it ever going to turn into anything? I hoped it did. And being a young, wide-eyed kid thinking it would, but you got just as much chance of making it as an NFL football player or NBA star or whatever, and probably more of a chance, um, depending on your skills. But it it kind of led me in that direction. I remember I used to have the first gun I bought as an adult was a 38 revolver, a small little 2-inch snub nose, and I used to keep it in my guitar case. I never really flashed it around, this and that, and it was really more about, because we played in a lot of seedy clubs, and I just thought,
Yeah.
well, maybe it'd be a good idea to have it. And then I remember one day I opened my guitar case and somebody saw it and they fucking freaked out. Why do you have that? And it's like, why are you worried about it? It's not doing anything to you, and it doesn't get up and do things on its own. It's not a fucking dog or I don't know, but it was kind of a slap in the face because I didn't see why it was any big deal, but it was to a lot of people like that. And so I really, what it was I met my wife, the love of my life that I've been with for 41 years, going on 42 years next month.
Wow.
Congratulations.
And,
Congrats.
well, I wasn't all that good. She was my third wife. So, but I made a lot of mistakes in my youth, like I said, but good guidance from adults and making you go things, use your skills and move down the road as best as you can and stay out of trouble. And that's what I tried to do. And I didn't do too bad. So anyhow, but when I met my wife, things changed a lot. Priorities became more important for me. We wanted to have kids. We both came from broken families that we decided that we were the people that wanted to be together, and we were going to stay together, and we have. Hasn't been easy, but we have. And so that's took me away from the music business. And because I was always tinkering with electrical stuff in the music business, you don't make a lot of money. So if something needs to be fixed, you pretty much got to fix it yourself,
Yeah.
maintaining sound and electrical systems that, having to wire into fucking panels when you go into a place that ain't got enough outlets on the stage. You got to go set a breaker. I knew how to do a lot of this stuff already. So transforming into being an electrician was not that difficult for me. And that's what I proceeded to do for almost 25 years after that.
Scott told us you were a hell of an electrician. Our buddy Scott over at Ronin.
Oh yeah. I actually wired his shop. That's one of the last
Yeah.
electrical jobs.
He's like, Jim Fuller's the coolest guy. He came over and wired my shop. Had no idea he was an electrician.
Yeah, he had just, Scotty's a cool dude, and he had been through some rough stuff at that time, and I was kind of new to the area, and I was introduced to Scott, and I liked him a lot. I liked the stuff he was doing. He was painting guns for me at the time. Is what it was. He was doing a lot of painting at the time. He hadn't started doing his Ronin thing yet, and but he. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot when we were going there. I just got sidetracked for a second.
I helped sidetrack you, but yeah, we were talking about how we went from BB gun to
Electrician.
AK
Oh,
guru.
yeah.
Yeah, and you were on electrician.
Yeah, but anyhow, so I developed these electrical skills. I got pretty good at it. The last electrical job I actually did, I was the on-site project manager for Steve Wynn's Encore Casino in Vegas, which
Okay.
was
That's
my
a big
contract was a $3.8 billion contract. It was fucking amazing. The most incredible job I ever worked on in my life. And it was hard to leave that because it was a great gig, good money, prestigious. I was doing stuff I never thought I'd ever do in the electrical field, but I got to that point, but I wanted to do something different, and we left it. And at the same time, my kids were starting to grow and move out. And my wife and I had always talked about how in our senior years, because we're both productive people, we like to do things and we like to make things, build things, accomplish things. And one thing I learned from a lot of my seniors was that retirement is a death sentence if you don't have something to do. Most of my uncles, I watched them retire with no plan, and most of them died within a year because they didn't have a daily routine. They didn't take care of their health well, and things catch up with you and you go. So we never wanted to be that way. You know, one of my mentors, a guy named Billy Stojak, in Vegas, he was a manufacturer for like 40 fucking years. And I think the only reason he had a manufacturing license just so he could play with fucking cannons and machine guns, you know? But
for
the
sure.
guy was a walking wealth of information. I loved it. He'd come over to the shop on the weekends and, you know, bring some wild ass project he was working on. It's like, and says, "Hey man, can I use your mill? I need to cut this real quick. Well, I don't have the cutters, and I know you've got them. Yeah, go ahead, do it, blah, blah, you know." And I remember him telling me, he says, "You know, Jim, you never retire. You work until you die. A happy man dies doing what he does for a living." Cool. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And he did. He had a heart attack in his 70s working on a on a demilled breech ring for I don't know, it was a 62 millimeter mortar or something like that, but he was trying to weld it all back together. And he had a heart
Crazy.
attack, massive coronary, and dropped right there. But that's how I'm going to go. You know, I'm going to go out doing something because that's what I've done all my life, and I'm not going to stop. You know, you have your limitations with age and things. You know, your eyes don't see as well, you don't hear things as well. You know, but I have a lot of good young hands too that I've been training for the last 5 years. So we're getting stuff done still. So anyhow, that brings us up to modern day, right? You think?
Yeah, it does. And I guess my question would be, why did you fall in love with the AK? There was lots of choices, lots of girls on the
'Cause they're
block, and
sexy.
and you chose the AK, and I would just want to, like, what drew you to the AK?
Well, there's, you know, the AK is just one of those guns that it's a weird anomaly. Like I said, I like to say the only good thing that ever came from communism, you know, but the it is the most reliable, most dependable, and the most simple to use gun really ever made. It was designed to be able to just hand it to an untrained person and be able to go to work and get the job done, which you can. It doesn't require a lot of things. The gun has a lot more into the design than people think it does to make it able to work in harsh environments. You've seen some of that stuff. Grantham did a series of videos with different running guns in different weather, frozen weather and stuff like that. The AK was the only thing you could break the safety on. Why? Because it's got a long ass fucking lever. You know, same thing with the mag release. It's got a long mag release. If it's frozen up in ice, boom, you can crack it. It goes. It still works. AR, try to push that little button if it's frozen. You know, now I know that's just one example, but it's kind of it showcases what the design of the gun was meant to do. It's not inherently accurate. It never will be. There's things you could do to make them accurate, but the things that you do to make them accurate also takes away from the reliability and the dependability of the gun. So you have to find that balance where you want that gun to be. If you got a 7.62 gun and you can hit a man out to 300 yards, that's what it was intended to do. And it does that quite well. It's just one of those guns that fits the hole where it needs to and fits it the way it needs to. Also is the fact that they were cheap. I was poor in the early 80s, you know, and you could buy a new AK for around $200, and you know, like a Chinese import. The Mitchell Mausers were around then. You could get the Egyptian Mahdi's, those were around. But you could buy a decent AK for, you know, a couple $100, and the ammo was like maybe 10 cents a round, something like that. It was super cheap. So it's like, wow, this is cool. This is like a real fucking fighting rifle, and it's cheap. I can afford to play with this thing. And I mean, I wanted an AR like every other young guy did, but they were a lot more expensive. They were twice the money at the time. I mean, I think an AK was around $200, and AR was like $450, something like that, for a Colt AR. You know, you didn't have all the oddball wild shit out there now like you did now. But and after a couple of years of owning the AK, I finally found myself in a position to be able to buy an AR, and I did. I bought a Colt H-Bar, which was a pretty decent gun, shot well, but it just never did it for me. And the one thing I realized was that I hadn't realized with the AK that I'd been running for so long was that it needed maintenance. A little Barbie doll, every time you put rounds through it, wants to be fucking cleaned, or else it's going to bitch it and not be, and, you know, it's what it is. That gun needs to be kept clean. You know, the better they're made, the more forgiving they are. But there's tiers of everything, and even the best tiered ARs, straight wall case. It's extraction of a straight wall case in a dirty gun is a lot harder than a tapered case in a dirty gun. I mean, the tapered cases fall out of a chamber. Now, I know I'm getting into the weeds on mechanics and stuff here, but it's one of the main differences that the AK is so much more reliable than most other guns. And just the fact that anywhere in the world you go, what's the preeminent gun on the battlefield?
AK.
That's it. It was made for it. The AR is a phenomenal weapon system. It truly is. And, it's been very successful for us, but it does require a certain amount of training. It requires a lot of maintenance and requires knowing stuff about your gun. It's more of a rifleman's gun, I would say, than the AK is. Ask a Marine, those guys know rifles. The Marine Corps probably trains riflemen better than any branch of the service there is. They put more emphasis on it, I think, than anybody else. And those guys know stuff about their rifles that most people don't even know exist. The guys that take it serious anyhow. And, I'm constantly getting grilled by a certain Marine that I'm associated with, but he knows his shit. So I got to listen to him.
Sometimes,
but sometimes, yeah. We have differences,
Yeah.
So Jim, how did that turn into a business? Right. The first adventure into business of AKs was your dealing with RD.
I think I know this.
Yeah.
I think I know. It has to do with an election, doesn't it? It has to do with a couple laws.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about. I've always been concerned about politics, and believe me, guys, don't start me down the road of politics. I know you don't do politics on your show, and I'm not going to go down there because I can piss off a lot of fucking people right now. Believe me,
we can too. We can.
we tiptoe around all kinds of stuff, but we know we won't ask Jim Fuller a direct question.
No, and I respect that. People know my beliefs. People know what I say and do. And it's actually probably hurt my business. There's probably people that didn't buy guns from me because of some of my political beliefs, but I don't really care because America first.
Yeah.
Period. America first. That's all I care about anymore. I don't care about anything else. They can keep all that. And I'm sorry, I won't go down this road. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
So how did buying those $200 Chinese AKs in the 80s because you were broke turn into an AK focused business?
Well, that nobody would work on those guns back in the day. I mean, in the early days, I realized there was things that could be made better on them. But you walk into a gun. I've told this story several times, and down in San Diego, I walked into a couple of gunsmith shops with an AK, and I thought I was going to get my ass kicked before I got out of there. I mean, these were all Vietnam veterans that were most of the armorers and stuff. And they took one look at that gun and said, "Get that fucking communist shit out of here! I dare you bring this into my fucking store!" Blah 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 blah. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to have to learn how to do this myself because nobody will touch it.
Yeah.
So, I've always been kind of a mechanical guy, so I worked with it. I did it. It's a good thing those guns were cheap because I destroyed 2 of them at least. Just trying to see what made them tick, but how did I get into RD? Well, I used to do a lot of firearms training, and I taught at Frontside for 5 years, and then I went on to teach for Suarez for 6 years after that, Suarez International, and while teaching for Suarez International, we were teaching a lot of contractors at the time. And a lot of these guys, this was around 04, 05, 06, in that area right there. So you had a lot of guys, contractors coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, who had been exposed to the AK for the first time. And they had money. And they wanted one of those guns. And they did their search, and they say, "Hey, everybody says you're the guy." So I built a good reputation on that. And when I actually started RD, probably 80% of my work was all contractor bills. It wasn't really for the general public. And eventually we serviced all those guys, most of them, and our popularity started growing. A lot of it was because of the word of mouth. The internet was pretty new at that time. Remember, I mean, I started before there was, we didn't even have social media pages, I think, until like 2012 or 2013. I could be wrong about that. I can't remember, but it was quite a while. Matter of fact, my son started our first Facebook page. And I remember him telling me, "Dad, you got to do this. Everybody does this. You need to join the fucking 21st century. You got to get on this fucking thing and learn how to do this." It's like, yeah, okay,
all right.
So I credit my son Matt for that. He got me into accepting the internet. You know, I go crazily into things like this. So, um,
It's the it's the gateway drug, getting you on Facebook.
Got that on
well, you know, if
Facebook.
you guys, I don't know if you guys remember the early days of Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff. You could say or do anything. They
Whatever
didn't,
you
yeah.
you know. And man, I could build a gun and post a picture of it, and it'd be sold in less than 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You know, I'd just say, "Hey,
Yep.
look, this is available." Boom, gone out the door.
Gone. See
You know,
ya.
you try to do that now, you know what's going to happen. You know,
Yeah.
I
They're
mean, you
gonna
guys
take
play
it
this game a
all
lot
down.
more than I do.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, you can't even hardly post a picture of a gun anymore without pissing somebody off. I don't know, but I don't really think about that too much anymore. Social media has never been I mean, I used it to its ability, and then when I realized they were just going to censor the fuck out of everything, I just started, okay, I got bitter and started getting political, you know, and I mean, even in the RD days, I used to keep all my politics separate. My personal page was political, but on the company page, I never did politics unless it was gun rights stuff. That was the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing I would do, and that's acceptable because our following, we're gun rights people. We believe in that, So I never had any problem with that, and I've carried that on with Fuller Phoenix. My Fuller Phoenix page doesn't, do anything political at all except for gun rights stuff. Anything that's important to that regard, and it'll stay that way because people know me well enough. If they want to hear the politics, they can find it, and that's it.
When precision matters, every detail counts. Frankfurt Arsenal IntelliDropper 2.0 takes accuracy to the next level with advanced sensors, a sleek touchscreen, and effortless calibration. Whether you're fine-tuning or loading in volume, the IntelliDropper 2.0 ensures confidence in every drop. Frankfurt Arsenal, precision starts here.
When you first started building all of your AKs, there's got to be a vision because I mean, yeah, if we can just import them for a couple $100, that there's no point in doing anything different to them, but you had to have something like, man, I can improve this or I can build this portion better. What was your vision for an American made AK and what it should be?
Well, the first big step that we did was we created a new combo gas block that was made by a friend of mine named Lenny Bolton, and it was called the Bolton gas block because his name was Bolton. Everybody thought that meant bolt-on gas block because it's used set screws, and we took so much hell over that. But the thing was, if you installed it right, there was never an issue with it. We never had any problems with it at all. But the whole purpose of that particular block was I always felt that, in those days we didn't see a lot of the 105, 104 type variants, the mid-size, and cranks were around, but you didn't see anything mid-size per se. There wasn't a lot of parts kits like that, and I wanted something more in that range. So I was looking at how to shorten the gun, make it lightweight in the front, because the AK is a little heavy front. If you try to balance the AK, it'll fall forward. So I wanted to find a way to take the weight off, and by cutting down to a 14.5 barrel, attaching a muzzle device, and then going with a combo gas block, you take a whole pound off the front end of that gun, and that's significant. And that was like the first major change that we did with the AK. And man, a lot of people hated it, but fucking people bought the shit out of that thing. They, I think I sold over 10,000 of those blocks overall. Some of those people just would buy the block, but we probably put at least 8,000-9,000 of them on guns. So it's it was a very successful part despite the haters. And we continued with that. I mean, that was the one thing we wanted to make the gun shorter. Faster handling, lighter, which that accomplished that. And probably the next big thing was suppression, being able to put a can on the gun, which is something that people never did with AKs for two reasons. They're heavily overgassed. You put a can on it, they become tremendously heavily overgassed.
Yeah.
And most of them don't have concentric barrels. You'll shoot your can right out pretty easily. I remember the Wolverine came out, Dead Air came out with the Wolverine, and it was successful for the AK because it had basically a 40 caliber hole in it. It wasn't really super quiet, but it worked. You could use it on non-concentric barrels, and it gave AK guys an opportunity to have a suppressor, but the thing was big, huge, heavy, So we, at the time, we were working with Silence Co. They approached us, and they wanted to do what they called the Summit Series, and we created a series of 75 guns, 3 different packages in that, and they were all suppressed AKs. And we did a lot of work with these guys trying to figure out how we could, tame the gun down and make it work better with a can and provide, a better option for the market to be able to suppress an AK. And with their help, with our help, with what we put together, we did a pretty damn good job of it. We didn't have, at that time, we weren't using adjustable gas blocks at all, but we were balancing the system on the thing, using spring weights, taking weight off here and there, different sized gas ports, gas cutouts, a lot of different tricks that we used to be able to make these guns cycle with a can and cycle without a can, but it's not be harsh or bad when they're rough on you. And it worked out pretty well. We were able to do it. I mean, there was certain, talking heads at the time saying, "Oh, you can never suppress an AK. You can't do it." And it's like, fuck you. Just apply a little fucking, a little fucking common knowledge to it, and you'll figure out a way to do it. It's not that difficult, Plus, the fact too that we couldn't get foreign barrels anymore, we had to start using American-made barrels or new barrels of some sort. So now you can thread a barrel, and you can thread a barrel properly instead of having to deal with 14 long left-handed threads that may be a little bit off or not. That's hammer forged barrels. They do that. It may look perfectly good when you're looking at the barrel. If you go over and cut it back, it may be off center a little bit because that's the nature of hammer forging and how those barrels work. Yeah, but that's kind of, the suppression was a big thing, beating that deal. And we've actually done some new stuff now. We've really advanced that quite a bit. And the new gas block we have coming out, hopefully here soon, will really change it even more. We've taken a new concept away. The adjustable gas block was a big deal. Basically, we just put a set screw into the gas channel to be able to tighten the set screw and close off the gas channel. It was a way to, but that presents problems too. You get carbon lock over time. The screws erode. It's not it's not a permanent, huh?
Oh, I was going to say sometimes they back out.
Yeah, I mean, they can actually move. I mean, the biggest thing was they carbon lock, and people would try to adjust them. They'd strip the screw, and now you're really fucked.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a perfect system. So we, with Fuller Phoenix, I wanted to look at something different, and we have a different design now that works in a different way, and it'll be out soon. Again, I know I've said it'll be out soon for the last 4 years, but there's reasons for that too, and we'll go down that road whenever you guys are ready.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting though that still at Fuller Phoenix, you start looking at some stuff, and before we actually get into what Fuller Phoenix is doing, just in general with business, I've met guys that are getting older. Not that they're going to be gone tomorrow, but you can only take on so many more new projects. How many more new projects do you have in the tank? And so the older you get, you got to start getting more picky about which ones am I going to do, because I'm not going to be able to do them all and all of that.
But that's definitely part of the equation. That was definitely part of the plan when I came down here to do this thing 5 years ago. We're going to streamline stuff. We're not going to take in any garbage. I mean, mostly all we've done is high-end kit builds for the last 4 or 5 years, and people that are sitting on really expensive parts kits that don't want just anybody putting them together. That we've made a pretty good living doing that over the last 4 or 5 years and bringing this. I mean, you've seen some. We post some of the pictures, some of the stuff we don't, because actually, frankly, it gets old. I mean, how many times can you post a picture of an RPK or an AKM or blah blah? I mean, even if they look cool and they're all original and this and that, but it's still fun to do these things. And they're the better quality parts you have, the whole lot easier that gun is to put together. I mean, there's a huge difference between a Russian kit and a Romanian parts kit. A huge difference. I mean, remember, it wasn't that long ago that Romanian was considered the bottom of the barrel. Now it's considered the best import you can get.
It's about the only import you can still get.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are others, but
Polish stuff out there, but
I think probably the only new thing that I've seen that's an import that's anywhere decent, and that's the new Polish barrel rifles. Those are pretty nice rifles. We had a couple of the pistols in, and we rebuilt those and turned them into some mid-sized guns that turned out to be pretty nice. Those guns are made well, and of course Ted Marshall had a lot to do with those guns. Ted Marshall's been a friend of mine for a long time. I don't know if you know Ted Marshall, but he was like me before me. The dude has forgotten more about the AK than most people know, and that's why he kind of disappeared from the scene, because he went to Poland and worked for Radom for a long time, and the results are the barrel rifles. So he had a lot to do with that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, a lot of folks don't realize that like the barrel rifle is literally made in the same factory, same tool, the same pile of parts as Poland's weapon for the defense of their country. And so it's
is
made to
now.
a pretty high standard.
It is, and I think they've done a good job at that. You see, just like a lot of the comm block arsenals, it went commercial years ago, and that's when Ted joined them, because they're no longer a military arsenal that runs by military specs, blah 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 blah. And a lot of people say, well, that takes away; they can never be the same. But I think Radham has done a good job of maintaining their quality. Now, Ted might tell you different if you talk to him, because you hear a lot of the inside skeleton in the closet shit when you talk to somebody like that, and it's displeasing. But it's still a good quality gun, and it's not a typical AK. There's differences to it that don't, parts don't interchange with other guns. Yeah, it's not. It's closer to a 100 series, but it's even different than a 100 series. So there are some weirdnesses they did with that gun, but they created a really nice gun from doing it, and I give them a lot of credit for that. But outside of that, there's really nothing else out there that's, the standard Wasser. I mean, if you want a good AK, you can buy a Wasser, and you got an AK that's going to go, 80 or 100,000 rounds if you change the barrels. They're built out of they're not built out of mystery metal. They're built out of metal that will withstand that. Now, Romanians aren't always the best quality control, so you might find flaws in them. And I've discovered a lot of the flaws over, 20 years of building the damn things, but, they're all fixable. You can get there.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's usually tights or a finish quality or tooling marks, or like it's unrefined. But usually Romanian guns, like even Wassers and Dracos, they're kind of like the Polish factory. They're still made at Kugir, which has been making AKs since the early 1960s. So it's like they
still have the basic format right, and that's why when people ask me what AK should I buy, and I tell them, that thing's ugly and it looks like old and stuff. Do you want the gun to work or not? You can buy anything. You can buy add-ons and change that look of that gun really easy. It's not that hard to do. But what's the engine under your hood? You know what I mean? So.
And Wassers are ugly, but they're good quality for the price that they demand.
They are. The factory barrel they come with, you'll probably get a good 20, 30,000 rounds out of that gun. They're not machine guns. So you're not going to get throat erosion and shit like that. A machine gun, you might only get 10 or 15,000 rounds out of it, but a semi-auto, you're going to get a lot more use out of that gun. And most people will never put that much ammo through a gun in their lifetime. I mean, think about how much ammo you put through your own personal guns. I've done a lot, but that's only because I do a lot of testing, and I've just done burn downs where I just wanted to see just what they would take. And that's why when I say, my crank that I bought a Bulgarian crank kit in the early 2000s, and I skilled when I paid $350 for that. But I built it anyhow.
Guard now.
Huh?
I said you could probably get $350 for the lower handguard now.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind in those days, a parts kit, a parts kit with a barrel was only $100. So $350 for a crank kit was a lot. But I built that gun, and I went through 5 barrels on that gun, and it shot over 100,000 rounds through that gun.
On the Bolton carrier.
Yep. And now I've got a 105 that's probably approaching. It's at 65 to 70,000, somewhere in that range. I kind of lost track over the last couple of years, but I know what these guns are capable of when they're made from the right materials, because we've done it. The barrel is the weak point. It's going to wear out before the rest of the parts do, and you just rebarrel the gun and you keep going. But usually after about 5 barrels, you've taken so much meat out of the trunnion for the barrel pin, it's not really in spec anymore, and it's not a good idea to keep going with it. But hell, you got 100,000 rounds out of it. What else do you want?
Rifle, fine.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, let's jump into Fuller Phoenix, but before we jump into Fuller Phoenix, let's take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors.
That's a sound done right. Scope rings, mounts, handguards, locked in with exact torque. Wheeler Fat Sticks don't guess, they deliver. Every click means you're dialed, not overdone. No strip threads, no compromise, just precision. Wheeler Fat Sticks. Hear the click, trust the build.
All right, welcome back. So, Jim, we do definitely want to talk about Fuller Phoenix and what you've got going on over there. Before we do that, we've got another fun segment for you. This is the rapid fire segment. This is brought to you by our friends over at EOTech. Don't forget to use code Whiskey10 at checkout and save a little on your next purchase. Jim, are you ready for rapid fire?
Bang.
All right, here we go. We actually already know the answer to this one. I'm gonna fire it anyway. See if you can get make and model. First gun you ever owned.
BB gun. Daisy.
Milled receiver
Huh?
or stamped milled receiver
Love
or
it.
stamped receiver.
Stamped. I don't think they ever did they ever make a milled Daisy BB gun?
No, this is a next question that has nothing to do with your BB gun.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
an AK platform, milled receiver or stamped.
Stamped.
Favorite AK variant of all time.
Probably East German. East German 74, the little short one.
Yeah.
One of the
Wood.
finest fucking AKs ever made.
A super cool
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah, the German think AK, but at a German level engineering, and it's like what?
Yeah. The East German was the most refined machining of any AKs out there.
They're
I'll argue
gorgeous.
that with anybody all day
Even the
long.
parts kits are beautiful. So
Yep.
on an AK, wood, aluminum, or polymer furnitures.
It really depends on what the gun's for. If you're gonna run metal, you better wear a glove. The AKs just get hot. Wood and polymer don't necessarily get hot. Polymer tends to melt a little bit depending on the gun, depending on what you're doing. But and some of the cheaper handguards too, they're not made out of the best polymer. But wood will last, until you crack it or break it. It doesn't get hot. Like on our machine guns that have wood on them, we burn the gun right when we first started just to score the wood. And it actually blackens it and it kind of hardens it, kind of like you're tempering a wooden spear in a fire. It's the same principle with a handguard. And once you get that blackened inside, it holds up really well. It doesn't transfer heat. All the metal around it's hot as fuck, but the handguard works fine.
Hell yeah.
They're just not as strong as polymer or metal handguards.
Most underrated AK country of origin.
Whoa. I'm going to really start up something. China.
Yeah.
It's not a typical AK, but they sent millions of them here, and they're still around working today. I have people trash those things over the years. Cheap fucking Chinese shit.
They're
they
good
rust.
quality.
The stuff they make today, I heard, is nowhere near the quality level of what those were. But those guns they imported back in the 80s, they're all still around and still working, except for the ones I fucked up.
I just shot that one today, and it's from 1983. It's gorgeous.
Yep.
Most overrated AK country of origin.
Again, this will probably piss somebody off, but I'm going to say a Mahdi.
Oh,
I mean,
they're really valuable pieces of crap.
They are, but look at one. They're horrible, man. The cosmetics on those guns, the tool marks, they're fucking terrible.
I think they're the only AKM that's worse than a Romanian as far as like overall finish. Like they do work. They hold together, but it's just like this is an ugly duckling of AKs.
Yeah, no doubt. That's that one fills that spot.
All right. Iron sights or red dots?
For me, red dots. I can't even fucking see those iron sights anymore. I used to do a sight modification that made it a lot easier. But even with my modification on those sights, I like a red dot. Like a forward mounted scout mount red dot. That's my standard stance. That's the way I'll always run a gun. I don't care what new thing comes along. That's what I like. That works for me.
Fixed stock or folding?
I got to say, most of the guns I own are folding stocks. But to be honest, I rarely ever fold them. It's I mean, it's one extra step you got to do if you need to use the rifle. That's just my philosophy. I don't know. Most of the places I take a rifle, I throw it in my back seat. I sit it next to a chair. I sit it next to a bed. You don't need to fold the stock. Sometimes a certain case, you got to fold it to get it into a case or something. I don't know, but
AK,
I don't really.
AK guys don't need a folding stock. They just want it because it adds character.
It does. And, I mean, hey, I can fold it up and shoot it from the waist and pretend like I'm in Call of Duty or whatever. I don't know.
Favorite, Jim, what's your favorite caliber of it for an AK?
5.45,
Of course.
hands down.
Yeah.
I don't care how hard it is to get right now. I got a lot of it still, and that was the best caliber the AK was ever made in. Now that said, I've done a little experimentation with 6.5 Grendel, and we will be returning to that because some of the testing I did in the past, we were getting some pretty phenomenal groupings out of an AK at 500, 600, 700 yards with 6.5 Grendel. So I plan on going down that road sometime in the next year or two. But we'll see what goes. We got a lot of stuff to do between now and then.
What's one modern gun design that you respect that's not an AK?
Modern gun design I respect. Probably a good AR, honestly. It's really the only other good fighting rifle out there in modern world today. One that's put together properly by with good spec parts by people that know how it should be put together, proper torques, proper spec. I've learned a lot about that. That's a lot more involved in an AR than it is in an AK. And when all that stuff is done right, it's a good gun. So that would have to be the answer there. Some sort of AR variant.
Most memorable custom rifle you've ever built?
Ooh, probably my 105. It's I don't have it here. It's at the shop, but it's that gun was built in memory of my family dog, and the serial number on that gun is Buster, which was his name.
No,
and we had that dog for 16 years, and the night he died, I went to the shop and I had a IZ240, which is a stock 5.45 Saega, unconverted Saega, and I worked all night and converted it into the 105 that was Buster. And because and the only thing that's left of the original Saega is probably the receiver shell and the rear sight tower, because I've changed everything on it so far. Saigas don't work really well as machine guns. The bumper of it didn't work out well, so I stripped all that stuff out, put Bulgarian bolt carrier and trunnion in it, and it's been running that way ever since. And I've got close to, like I said, 65 to 70,000 rounds on that gun. And not only is that my main go-to gun, but it's also a real personal thing for me.
That's cool.
right
And
on.
I'm in the process of building the Max gun, because we just lost Max, who I had for 12 years after I lost Buster. And so I'm building the Max gun right now, and and you'll see it soon. Yeah.
Sweet.
Good. And lastly, Jim, what's one thing America still gets wrong about AKs?
It's not an M4.
Yeah.
I don't care how much fucking rails you throw on it, what fucking color they are, what the latest fucking wazoo. Oh, look at this stock. Look at this rail system. Does it fucking work? I don't, this is what.
That's hilarious.
More of that internet mystery shit.
Yeah, that's hilarious. He said they're not M4s.
They're not M4s.
Well, that's what, the M4 market, remember how crazy it went, where people were just making anything and everything, stupid colors and all this other garbage and shit, just to sell shit. That's what happens when corporate America takes over a fucking good industry. They start manufacturing all this shit. There's three things. There's three things, and this applies to any product that we make, anybody makes. One, is it new and innovative? What does it give you? Does it give you something new and innovative you didn't have before? Two, is it more of the same? Three, is it just meant to separate you from your money? You can classify all products into those three categories right there. There's some maybe some, wishy-washy here and there, but it's usually one of those three things. And right now, the AK industry is stuck in 2 and 3. There is no one. There is nothing purposeful out there. There is nothing. It's just, that's what it is. And I'm sorry, people will argue that, but that's one of the reasons why you haven't seen me putting out too much new, because parts ain't that good no more.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna drop the bombshell. We've been kind of brushing up on it, but Fuller
Sorry,
Phoenix
man, I got ahead of it.
Fuller Phoenix has been building kit rifles. Like when gun, Jim? When gun?
Well, I think it was about 3 years ago. We had planned on putting out a run of 7.62 guns, and because when I came down to start Fuller Phoenix, I bought a shitload of parts, and good quality, mostly Hungarian stuff, very good quality stuff, and those were going to be the parts that I was going to build all of our guns off of, and we built a few prototypes. They were looking pretty good. We did a lot of testing on them. We liked some of the new stuff we were doing with them, so I decided, okay, here we go. I'm going to launch a gun. And then Travis came to me. He freaked out because I put out a video about it. He says, "Man, talk to me before you do that. You got to think about some of this stuff." And I was anxious to do something. And he pointed out, he says, "Have you checked the market to see what your supply chain is right now?" You know, and it's like, and then I did. And trying to resupply stuff like that. And I think we mentioned this earlier. You don't want to release something and then find out that your supply chain won't allow you to continue building it. That's going to hurt you more than it's going to help. I don't care how good the first release was. If you can't continue to make it, people are just going to say, "Oh, they fucked up," And when in reality, it was just about the fact of being able to be able to acquire parts and have a good supply chain, which has always been a problem in the AK community because we depend on foreign countries for our good parts, and that's just kind of where it was at. So I humbly had to back off of that and say, "Fuck, we can't release a gun because I don't want to not be able to have parts. 600-700 guns later, not be able to have parts to be able to sell anymore." So we just kind of decided to stick with kit builds and work on development. Plus, development, the way we do it, requires time and a lot of testing. Some of the new parts that we developed, I thought for sure at about 3,000-4,000 rounds, they were going really good and everything was fine. And I started feeling pretty confident about it. Then at about 5,000 rounds, we started having failures on some things. It's like, okay. I'm glad we took it this far because that would have been really bad if that got out on the public and it started happening to people 4,000 or 5,000 rounds down the road. So that's why we test like we test. I guarantee you there is very few people that do that anymore. Nobody wants to spend the kind of money it costs to be able to do that. But that's what we do because of the product we put out. We built life safety tools and we intend for these guns to work every time you pull the fucking trigger. And if they don't, that's on us. And that's something that I can't personally live with. I made this commitment a long time ago, and I won't sell a substandard gun just to be able to make money. At this point, I don't need to. I can be comfortable for the rest of my life. I'm doing this because I want to, and I want to bring better stuff to the community and try to bring it back to the semblance of what it once was. And I think we can do that with what we have coming.
Oh, wow. So there may be something coming. You're telling us there's still a chance. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, when you, talking with Travis, talking about the market stuff, he is, we
He's a
know,
genius.
we
He's
know
a smart
quite a few people that know him, and the way his brain functions is it's another level because the proverbial we're playing checkers and he's playing chess type mindset. I mean, it really rings true in a lot of things. And I think it's really cool that you've got him to lean on or to, pick his brain every now and then when you're thinking about doing something.
Yeah, we help each other in a lot of ways. He likes my insanity too,
It's infectious, that's for sure.
Well, it's like he said to me one time. He says, "Jim, the best word I can use to describe you is you're authentic." And I'll take that because I'm just, I always try to be honest. I don't try to blow smoke up people's ass. I've never claimed to be anything I wasn't. I just happen to have a knack with certain things and a passion that drove that knack more than anything. And I've credited that more than anything at all because if you have passion for something, you'll find a way to do it and do it well. But that's all about the passion and the heart. And a lot of it is going back to the same thing, the discipline of the gun, understanding its purpose, what it's intended for. Life safety equipment, man, that's what it is. And that's, I know it's also used for many other things, for hunting, for sporting and this and that, but that's not my thing. That's not what I do. It's not what I ever did and not what I'm ever going to do. I have a one focused mindset on what to do, and that's guns to fight with. What battles you choose to fight, that's up to you. That's your freedom. but your freedom says you should have that gun.
So you've said it a couple times and you've hinted around it, and I've heard you say it before, but I'm really interested to get your take on this. I've heard you bring up innovation quite a few times and talking about how not just the AK industry, the firearms industry as a whole, um, you know, if you're not, you said something, it was like, if you're not innovating, then you're just building stuff that's already been built. And then there are other companies that claim that they're innovating, and all they're doing is just a spin on something that someone else has already innovated. And and I was going to say, and do you think that, I don't know, after so long, how much innovation is left, you know?
Well, more than you might know. Right now, the innovation is one thing, but bringing the industry back to reality is another. We can still innovate, but we need to make the industry honest again, and we need to make people understand the differences in tier structures of guns once again. And again, the discipline of the gun, understanding what a gun is for, what it's intended to do, what it should do, and what it shouldn't do. I'm not going to sit out there and bash, some American-made gun, because they serve a purpose too. There's people, PSA this, all right, defense, blah, 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 blah. You know what? There's a lot of people that can't afford to buy a $2,000-$3,000 gun. Does that mean they shouldn't have an AK? You have to temper this stuff. You have to temper this stuff with the overall view of your Second Amendment rights and the whole other thing involved with that, because I don't want a guy to not have a gun because he can't afford what I built. But at the same time, I'm not going to lower my standard because I have a customer to supply that's expecting that level of quality. There's plenty of other people out there filling that hole, that for the people that need something, they can't afford something more higher end, shall we say. And I've always tried to walk carefully around that thing, because everything has its purpose. Everything is there for a reason. And there's all levels of self-defense rights that we need to be able to cater to. And that's how you do it, and then particularly with the internet, it gets hyperventilated. I remember one time, we built a lot of 105s, 104 configurations. We're kind of famous for that. And people were spending outrageous money to buy original Russian and Bulgarian combination blocks to be able to build their guns with. I was seeing people spending up to $500 for a Russian combo block.
Yep.
And then one day I did a video. PSA makes a Russian copy block, which is every bit as good as the original.
Chrome lined, just like a Russian one?
There's not.
Yeah.
It's actually, I don't think they're chrome lined. I honestly, I don't remember them being chrome lined, but the thing is they work perfectly fine, and they're $68 fucking dollars, and so I did a video about this. Yeah. So I did a video about this. I said, look, guys, if I understand wanting to have things right and correct, and if you can afford to find and want to go through the hassle to find an original Russian block for your gun, good on you. But for those of you who are tired of looking for it and just don't want to spend that kind of money, this serves the purpose well. I'm running one on several guns here in the shop, and they work perfectly fine. And next thing you know, the internet went crazy. Go, Jim just endorsed PSA. It's like,
well,
no, I endorsed a part. And I don't endorse anybody. I have never endorsed anybody, any product. I don't do that. I don't do endorsements, But if I see something that's a quality part that might be helpful for somebody, I'm going to speak about it. Not whether I made it or not. I don't give a fuck. If that's a good part and that's going to help you get where you want to go, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you if it's good or bad. I try not to rag on stuff, because I could damage people's products and stuff I've done in the past. But so I generally don't try to talk down things. But if I see something that's good, I will say something about it, because not because I think that company's awesome or this or that, but this part works. Buy this.
Yeah. No,
it's all we have choices.
100%.
Yeah. So going into the AK market, talking about it from the stateside perspective, you've watched the American AK market evolve. Where do you think we are today?
Not where we should be.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. People can, with CNC machining, you can build just about anything, but it's all about the strength of the metal that you're building from. Forgings that the main parts, mainly the bolt carrier and the trunk, or not the bolt and the trunnion, not so much the carrier, but the bolt and the trunnion are made from forged steel. And when I say forged steel, I'm not talking about a square block that's been forged and then cut out of that square block. I'm talking about a forging that has been forged into about 40 to 50% of the shape of the original part. That creates a grain structure that's stronger than any other way to build this gun. And then they machine those trunnions out of that forging. That's how you get a solid trunnion. And if you're not doing it like that, you're never going to get that. Now, do you need to do that? If somebody's buying a gun that they only want to last for 5,000, 10,000 rounds, fine. And you're at a price point to do it. But a lot of people are using parts like that to build guns for an awful lot more money than $1,000, shall we say. And that's where I get a little bit twisted about it, because you're really kind of screwing with the tier structure. And, when I don't know, I don't want to go down that road, but we won't use stuff like that. We won't use mystery metal parts. We will use original con block parts, or if it's anything else, it has to be something that I've tested, put thousands of rounds through, and I know it absolutely will not fucking break, because that's what we do. That's what I'm known for the most. That's what we've always been known for, and we're never going to change that. And it's time to bring that mindset back. Again, the discipline of the gun. Man.
So Jim, I'm gonna take a little more optimist outlook on the state of AK market in the U.S. So I think I totally can nod to the darkness and the overtake of large corporate gun in AK community, which is actually fairly new. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has corrupted the market, but I think that there's also a lot of stuff, especially in this country, that has really brought the platform forward. And as far as I mean, a lot of guys, a lot of older guys, the old heads in the community would say, the glory days were back then. We could buy them for this. Like I understand that, but as far as a young guy, a young person looking to get into an AK and build a custom fighting rifle, or have one built specially for them, I don't think that there's ever been a better time for AKs in America than right now.
Well, you're right in that regard, because there's an awful lot of people doing it. But it all depends on what you want your end product to be. And again, not everybody needs the gun.
Agreed.
And I've never tried to corner the AK market. I'm not interested in that. I'm not gonna, one of the reasons I left RD is because they wanted to abandon that principle. They didn't want to continue that mindset. They wanted to cheapen things and make things different. And that's why, no, this is not me. I'm walking away. I don't give a fuck. I could have stayed there and collected a paycheck and done nothing for the rest of my life, but I don't need that. That's not what I've ever done, and that's not what I'm going to do now. So I understand what you're saying. There is, it's just that I see, because I know what a lot of people are getting. You're getting some pretty cool looking guns, and you're getting some pretty neat looking designs and this and that, but if it's what you need and if it serves your purpose, that's good. Like I said, I just do things to a more authentic standard than what the original is. And that's not for everybody. I realize that. But again, I'm not going to change, because that's not what we do. And I see it a lot here, because we talked about the generational thing going here, and it's like, because I'm the old boomer guy. We got the Xer here, and then we got the millennial here. Matt, bless you, brother. I see where you're coming from, because I see this all the time. This is why my friend Tufu that I told you about, I have Tufu involved, because he is my youthful connection to the AK industry. He's the guy that helps me understand from your age perspective what I should be thinking about to help other people in that line. And that's what I have to do, because I'm quite a bit different in that regard. I was raised a lot different, and my mindset's a lot different than a lot of younger people. And younger people are learning, and good on them for it, because I just want them to learn that there's more to it than what they've got now. It's it is. It's just some of the stuff. I mean, I've seen products come out. What was the one thing? It was a suppressor adapter that was it was designed to screw into an existing suppressor. You know what I mean? And it fit 24 millimeter threads for an AK. And I told the guy, I said, do you realize that this is going to be a possible bullet strike because of the way this is designed? He said, I don't care. I put a disclaimer on it. Fuck them. Whoa. Okay. I will remember the name of your company.
Yeah.
And we're not going to repeat that name here. Believe me,
No.
we should.
No,
but I
I'll
won't,
catch it
you know.
offline. It's fine.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting as the Xer here. I think it's interesting because in the past 40 so years, the landscape of firearms has changed so drastically.
It has.
You know, we just heard the stories of $200 AKs and, you know, ARs at ARs at 400.
Chinese ones.
And, you know, there weren't many selections back then, but the pricing, don't get me wrong, $200 in the 80s. I mean, it's not like
That was
we were
still a lot of money. Yeah.
it's not, it's not like we were going through the Great Depression, but I mean, that's still a lot of damn money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you didn't have the choices and you didn't have all of the variants. And so now we live in a time where all of us yearn for, of course, we all want that $200 AK, but we're not ever going to get that.
No,
but
it's gone. Yeah.
you want the quality, and that quality costs money. And the unfortunate part is there's 20 other, whatever platform you like, there's 20 other somethings in front of the one you want that are less expensive. So it's that balancing act of, well, I have $5,000 to spend on my firearm arsenal for this year. Well, you can knock that out with one purchase, or you can knock that out with 20 purchases, and or somewhere in between. So now the consumer nowadays, I appreciate that you said you don't judge anybody for what they buy based off their price point, because that's what a lot of people have to make that decision. And
I lived that way myself. You know, I mean, I got into AKs because I couldn't afford an AR. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the same point that I learned back in the early 80s, you know? So I always try to temper that with that. I don't necessarily want to, you know what I mean, run down the lesser quality things. I just want people to understand that there's a difference, you know, because I, you know, people say, well, it's just as good. No, it's not just as good. Okay, I'm here to tell you that right now. It's not just as good. Is it good? Sure it is. Will it serve your purpose? Yes, it probably will. But is it just as good? No, it's not. And
it's lipstick on a pig.
Well, and I wouldn't, you know, that's a cute line, and it's true in some cases, believe me. But it's not necessarily a pig if it serves your purpose, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to say, it's more like what you said earlier of, hey, if I'm in the market for an AK, well, one of the first questions, if I'm researching, one of the first questions I should ask myself is, realistically, how often do I plan on shooting this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how reliable do I want it? And if this is just going to be something where I've already got my self-defense set up ready, I know what I want, and this is going to be for the range and just for just adding another one to the collection, then your price range starts at the bottom of the barrel and goes to the top, and you can spend wherever. But if you're looking for that one gun that you're going to go to when life depends on it, the old mattress salesman of, how much is a good night's sleep worth to you? Well, how much is that
your life worth?
Price worth? You know, what's your life worth? You can't put a price on it.
Yeah, and that's it. And Matt, no, you know, I feel like I might have disparaged your point of view, and I did not mean to at all.
I'm ruffling feathers and stirring the pot. That's all I'm doing. You can't hurt my feelings, Jim Fuller.
That's what we do. You do the same thing to me that my kids do all the time. My kids are 35 to 41 right now, and so they, you know, they're all in that same age group as you, and you know, the same mindset and stuff. So they keep me honest too, just like you are, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate the bear
a little bit.
And that's okay. That's okay. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it, you know, it's like if you're too offended to do this shit, just get the fuck out of it. You know, if you can't if you can't hang with it, just get the fuck out of it. You know, I've had so many people try to trash me, and it's like, oh gee, you hurt my feelings. Oh fuck you. You know.
That's
What have you done lately?
mentality, man. Like, make me cry more, please. Try, please. please.
The internet. It's funny. I love to tell this story because it's apropos to this. I remember when I was a kid and during the moon landing, we were watching the moon landing on TV,
Oh, that was
1968,
real?
69, whatever it was. Yeah. Well, what I saw was, at least the way I see it, we're not going to go down that road. I still believe in the face-to-face program.
Whole nother show.
The point is I was sitting there with my grandmother. Keep in mind, my grandmother was born in 1895. Okay, so this is back in the 60s. So it doesn't seem, it's just for perspective there. And we're watching this and the moon landing's there, and me and my mom, my grandmother are talking about it. She goes, I remember when the first airplanes flew. And I went, whoa, shit, she does. And she goes, and now we have men on the moon. And I went, yeah, wow. I mean, that's a big realization, right?
Yeah.
And the next thing out of her mouth floored me, and I'll never forget it. She says, I've been alive for too long. I need to go. I've seen too much. And I went, whoa, it didn't, I always remembered that. But now that I'm, in my senior years, I think back and I get what she was saying. Because when I look back and see things like no internet to what we have now, how big of a change is that?
The technology.
Mike, because you were born before the internet, so you experienced life without it, and life was still functional and it was still good in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But look how much that changed history in a matter of 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, the technology leaps, when you start looking at all the different technology leaps, the 2000s, I mean, it started in the 90s, but really once we hit, the 2000s, and all, the Y2K, all the computers magically stayed on. The moment that happened,
I remember that. I was only like 12 years old,
but I was off that night. Me and another guy were standing there holding fucking arms.
Because we were all worried that the computers would be too dumb.
I remember the world was scared.
And now these same computers are telling Jim what his life story was. I love it.
That I rest my case. It's exactly the same thing. My grandmother watching the introduction of flight to landing on the moon, and then you correspond that to no internet to what we have today. That's a big change in culture. It's a big change in America. And look at all the things that it's affected, for good and bad. I mean, the internet has allowed me to meet people that I never would have met otherwise. It's allowed me to reach out and talk to people that I never would have been able to talk to. And it's amazing. I absolutely love that for that. But I also see a lot of the garbage that comes along with it. And that's how we season that stuff and how we try to make a good society out of the technology that we have. But I'm telling you, AI still fucking scares me, man. Didn't you watch fucking Terminator? I mean,
we all have.
Yes.
Terminator 2 favorite movie, actually. I tell people all the time, that's my favorite.
Oh,
movie.
it was I can't say they were all good. I actually like the latest one where Sarah Connor was back, and hey, from an old guy standpoint, she still looks pretty fucking hot for an old guy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's in her 60s, but she looked good in that movie. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. She looked good in that movie.
That one, I can see the remakes on the Terminator movies. Those were great. And Die Hard, it's like, all right, how many times can Bruce Willis be trapped in?
Not that many more times, apparently.
Yeah. The one that I'm over, the one that I'm over that they keep remaking now is Jurassic Park. So I'm like, how many more damn places on Earth can dinosaurs hide?
Exactly. How many private islands do we need dinosaurs?
How many private islands are there for these dinosaurs? Whatever. But
I know it's some of that stuff, but that's just Hollywood going crazy, doing what
it's
they
crazy.
Do, running with stuff.
But it's crazy back to the technology part, because I actually sat down because I've got a grandson, and we sat down and we watched Jurassic Park, and the original one from like when I was in high school. And I just vividly remember how great this movie was as far as the special effects and all of the things. And then I watch it
for
now.
Me, I had the same effect from Star Wars. Star Wars had the exact same effect on my generation.
And then
that was like something we had never seen.
And then you're like, this is horrible. Like, I watch it now and I like this, the movie's fine, but you look at the effects and you're like, oh my God, nothing like I remembered.
It was
Yeah, it
so
was
real.
impressive at the time. It's even Star Wars. Like I said, Star Wars was my generation of that. Star Wars was
Yeah.
a whole new concept in visual entertainment at that time, and it was something else I had never seen before. Man, it was amazing.
Did you hear the spoof off Star Wars Spaceballs? Did you
Oh yeah,
hear
yeah.
he's coming back out? Rick Moranis is coming out to do a Spaceballs 2.
Oh no.
Yeah, I did read something about that recently, and that I will watch that
I'll
because the
watch it.
original
Yeah,
one
I'll
was
watch it.
fucking hilarious, man. It was
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
hilarious.
Come
Yeah,
in the desert.
They and what was the guy
They really pick on corporate Hollywood in that movie too.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
what was, Chewbacca's name in that? Barf.
Barf,
The
yeah.
character's name was Barf.
Uh,
Oh shit!
Oh,
Fucking culture, man. Goddamn.
and
Hey,
thinking through that advancement, now I'm tying that back into where we were talking about advancements of the AK and even advancements of the AR. Let's just call that maybe the two most prolific fighting rifles on this planet.
mhm.
pretty
It's
much, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
by
we-
today's
we-
standards, yeah.
we think that they're so far advanced, but really it's just the same gun they've been making for 60 years. Like small arms really have not advanced like the rest
No,
of
they haven't.
at the speed
I mean,
of
there's
the rest
really
of our
only a
world.
handful of designs that are just been rebuilt over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, the AK inspired the Galil. It inspired the Valmets. These are all AK based platforms that came after the AK, and the same thing with the M4. I mean, how many different versions of the M4 are there? It's. I mean, you could go back through history and find all of that stuff, but until they start getting into rail guns and weird shit like that, it's not going to be much different than it has been, like you said, for decades. How different can the projectile cartridge thing be?
I think the ammunition's going to have to change before the platform
Yep.
changes. Now we're at that point.
Without a doubt. The G11, I think, was the first one that went down that road with
There we go.
HK, started with the electronic ignition, ammunition, that type of thing. That's the kind of step that we'll have to see before we ever see any real big changes in powder actuated firearms.
Yeah.
Just,
That and the caseless ammo.
mhm.
That would be interesting. It's just interesting that we're and I guess I could say, we call it a piece of equipment, but I mean it is a weapon now. Firearms are being replaced with AI, with drones.
But drones,
Yeah.
drones are the new warfare, man. Why would you send
Yeah.
would you send a man into something that you can send a drone into? And
Yeah.
now that they're weaponized and quite greatly weaponized and incredibly intelligent, it's almost like there's almost never need for foot soldiers. I wouldn't say that in particularly because the War College would say prove me wrong left and right. But
Yeah.
think about what they can do with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Homeland Defender says, "I'm going to stand for my rights and I'm going to boom drone strike." Your
Yeah,
rights
for
are done.
about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It's going to be the first 6 months of the wars are going to be they're going to be aerial drone wars, and everyone's going to be protecting their side and shooting down drones as they're just getting bombarded. And then it's like, all right, we're out of drones. While we're building more, now let's fight.
Yeah.
Waiting
It'll
on
probably
the
be a
drone
supply
shipment.
chain more than anything. Yeah, the supply chain
chain.
goes dry. So we got to go back to fucking shooting humans.
Oh.
Oh, man.
So Jim, kind of in conclusion, and I get tore up on the Facebook and the Reddit, basically anywhere all over the internet. But I continue to say it to pretty much any guest that we have that's closely related to the AK platform. But I'm not calling out those big brands or anything, but I people have to think hard about this. But with the goats, with the old heads like yourself, and I'm sure there's a couple of other boutique builders that you have respect for, but I am
Oh, yeah.
willing to say that the best AKs in the world are hand built in the United States of America.
I could agree with you, but then people would say I'm an arrogant fucking prick if I did.
Let them say it, Jim.
All
Let 'em
right,
say
I said it. The best AKs in the world are built in America.
Yeah,
there's some guys out there. Troy Sellers Troy does a lot of the same thing. He builds up a lot of really nice parts kits for people, and he does phenomenal work. And I could name other people. There's plenty of good guys out that are doing this. I didn't train Troy. I trained a lot of the guys that are out there doing it now. They took their first build class with me, and I'm proud of that. I'm glad I was able to expand things in that regard. And a lot of those guys are still doing some pretty good work. But that's how it goes, man.
That's your mark. That's your mark on the firearms industry in the U.S., man, and globally. That's your mark. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, if there was just say if there's a Mount Rushmore, and I'm saying it, not you, if there's a Mount Rushmore for contributors to the AK in the United States, advancements, like, you're on it. You're on it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that, Mike. I've only tried to be honest about this gun. There's been a lot of accusations made about how I do what I do, why I do, but I think I made it pretty clear here why I do what I do. It's never been about money. It's always been about the discipline of the gun and what it was intended for, and that's why I just hope we could bring it back a little bit. I mean, I know, through generations, I've seen that culture changes and mindsets changes about different things, but I really want to see the discipline of the gun stay alive a little bit. You guys are pretty sharp dudes. You know what I'm talking about, and I like the fact that we have such a broad range of age here, because it gives us a chance to really delve into this, and to get Matt's responses versus Mike's responses based on your age group. It's wonderful stuff, and this is one of the best things that we have about the internet and podcasts like this, because we can delve into all this stuff that really matters and teaches people the truth of what's out there. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100%.
See how I answer that question?
Yeah. Anytime you compliment me, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Oh, no, I appreciate the opportunity, guys. It's always been a lot of fun to do these things. I enjoy this stuff, and I'm kind of selective about who I do these things with. But Chufu gave me a good comment about you guys. I watched a little bit of what you do, and I really like the way you guys handle stuff. You do a good job of providing information and showcasing things that people need to hear. So all the power to you with your podcast, man. It's good stuff. I like to see positive stuff.
We appreciate that. We I have my own personal feelings on certain manufacturers and certain platforms and certain things. Sometimes
Mike
I
hates
say
AKs, by the way. Just
no. So I've never owned.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, I've never owned
he
an
calls
AK.
them smoothbore rifles.
I can fix that.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to talk about that. But because I don't have one, and all Matt does is talk about AKs, and I'm like, cool. I'm like, what are you doing tomorrow? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go get gas, and I'm going to go look at some AKs. Like, AKs always finds a way to make it in the story. So I just call them smoothbore, and I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever, those smoothbores. And so anytime he says it, and I've shot, man, AKs are nice to shoot. I'm like, all right, since I don't have one, I have to be that hater and always just say AKs suck, even though they don't. So it's more of a front, but
he sends me all the third world country videos of people misusing AKs, and he's like, Matt, come get your people. Like, he gives me a hard time. He's not really a hater, but he gives me a hard time.
So,
Mike, it's not the first time I've heard that, man. It's not at all, and I do appreciate it. I mean, we're America. AR-15 is America's gun, whether they like it or not.
I got one of those too. I just don't have 10 of them.
The more we learn about these things, the more opportunities there are out there for people to dip their toe in the water.
Yeah.
So, staying on with the AK, what I guess my question would be, what trend in the industry is exciting you most right now? Or is there one? You better not say anodized parts. You better not say it.
Honestly, there's not a lot that I'm thrilled about right now, and for the reasons I've explained. There's stuff out there that's worth spending money on, depending on what your needs are. But right now, it's just kind of like the AR industry was years ago, when it was just stagnated to where people were just started making stuff out of fucking hot pink and purple because they were trying to find some different way to sell a fucking gun. something that doesn't give you anything for your money other than a cosmetic appearance. That's fine for some people, but you know, I'm all about the mechanics and what does it do. You know, uh, Travis introduced me to an interesting thing. He says to me one day, he says, "Hey Jim, hand me that AK and tell me about it." And I said, "Okay, well, it's an AK. This, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this." He says, "No, tell me about the gun." And I had to think about it a second. I go, "Oh, it's 0 to 25 yards for 124 grain ammo, and and the vertical print is from the throat to the belly button out to 300 yards." And he goes, "That's the answer I was looking for." You follow me there?
Yep.
Mhm.
Go ask that question to somebody, and they'll start telling you about all the trinkets they have on their gun instead of telling you about how the gun is set up and what it's intended to do.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a big difference right there.
That is a big difference. And I'm guilty of that, especially in the AK world. Like right now, AKs are hot. They're collectible. Almost every one of them is 10 times what it should cost. And so there's always a constant like online flex of an AK. In our little AK goon communities, right? And so it's like, well, all that's all well and good. That's a whole lot of money laying there, but what does it do, and can you do it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a
More money than skill.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Believe me, I saw that. I see that a lot. There's a lot of people that just buy art objects, you
Yep.
know.
And they
A
are
lot
beautiful
of
art too.
art is art objects because they want to hang them on the wall and say, "I own that. That was built for
Mm.
me by blah blah blah." You know, and that's okay. If that's what you're buying it for. Fine. Um, One of the coolest ones I did, we did a like actually it was this company here, Silent Warrior Foundation. They do fundraisers for special forces guys every year, and they feature a big thing where people gather around and they talk about a particular thing. And they did the Somali pirates thing with Captain Phillips, and they
Oh, right
actually had
on.
Captain Phillips there. And I built a Somali pirate AK to be auctioned off at that thing. And that was quite a thrill because I got to meet Captain Phillips. He signed the handguard on the AK. It was pretty cool. Rusty fucking piece of shit Romanian thing, you know. But that was one of the cool
But
things
it
that I've done
ran,
lately
didn't
that I
it?
really enjoy. Oh yeah, yeah, run like a red
Yeah.
pig. You
Yeah.
know? So,
So
we don't build anything that don't run, even if it is just a wall hanger. It's
Even
gonna
if it
pick it
is
up and you can
ugly.
go to war with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we've just about got to the end, but I've got one question and Matt's got one more. So
Sure.
my question for you is going to be, what advice would you give this generation coming up of gunsmiths and builders?
Well, that's two different things. Gunsmithing and manufacturing are really two different animals. If somebody wants to be a gunsmith, I mean, I know there's a lot of people will go to gunsmithing schools. I'm not going to name any particular ones. There's a few different ones out there. I honestly think if you want to be a gunsmith, go out and get factory armor certifications. That's going to get you to work the fastest and teach you the most pertinent information for what's available, what's going on today. I mean, a lot of gunsmithing schools will teach you how to cut a stock out of a block of wood. That's great skill. It takes a lot to know that to do it, but how often do you sell something like that?
Right.
If you're a Glock armor, if you're a SIG armor, if you're a Colt armor, if you got these certificates, you're going to get hired by a gunsmithing shop and you're going to go to work right away. You're going to be able to provide a service that people need. So that's like the gunsmithing road, you know. And again, what are you going to specialize? What are you going to do? You know, but if you want to be a working gunsmith, our factory armor research is probably the best bet to get into. Now, as far as being a manufacturer, builder, that's a whole different game altogether because, again, you need to understand business. That's one of my biggest negatives with RD. I didn't understand business well enough, and I had a business that grew exponentially fast, and it was overwhelming for me. And I won't make those mistakes again because I know better now and I have a much better situation than I was in back then. So I won't make those same mistakes that I made back then just for that reason. But you need to understand that whatever you're going to build, you need to you need to build it right or don't even do it. I mean, if you decide your market's going to be the cheap market and you're just going to build something cheap, that's fine. Go ahead, do it, get in it, go with that route. But don't try to sell yourself as something you're not. You know, be honest about what you're trying to sell people. It's like, hey, you don't need to buy this, you know, $3,000 AK. I've got these $1,000 ones here. It's not as good as that, but this thing's only $1,000 and you can get it now. I wouldn't be offended by that. And I would probably be enticed to go look at that guy's gun because he's being honest, right?
Mhm.
He's not trying to tell me this is the same thing as that. When most people know in their heart of hearts that there is a difference, you know? I
Well,
mean, there's a
people
lot of
don't
high-end guns. I'm sorry.
I was going to say there might be a $200 to $300 price discrepancy between things that are similar based off of overhead and how much profit people want to make. But when we're talking, you know, more than 10%, there's usually something more to this.
And if they continue to, and if they're continuously selling that stuff, then there's something to it. Because if that's somebody just trying to rape you for money, they're usually ironed out real fast and figured out really fast. I've seen a lot of those come up over the last 20 years. You know, flash in the pants. I got this, and I'm better than that, and I can do anything. And boom, 2 weeks later they're gone. Nobody ever hears them again. You know, we've seen a lot of that come and go. You know?
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Matt, I believe it's that time.
This is going to be a good one, and I'm kind of excited because I don't know exactly what 5 AKs Jim will pick, but I'm sure it's a great list.
I didn't know it was 5 AKs. I thought it was 5 of my
I was making a
favorite
joke.
guns.
I was being facetious. I was being facetious.
Oh, okay.
But
that would be hard.
It's time for our top 5, Jim. The NFA doesn't matter. It's not the zombie apocalypse or anything, but you got to cover all the types of shooting that you like to do. What 5 guns is Jim Fuller going to take for the rest of his life?
Primary rifle, AK-105. Main battle rifle, FAL. Probably an 18-inch variant. The longer one's kind of heavy.
There you go.
GPMG, PKM. Subgun,
Yeah.
Swedish K.
Oh.
Pistol, Glock 19, preferably Gen 2. That's what I've been carrying. I have 2 of them I've been carrying for, I don't want to say how long.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't get into that.
Swedish K is a new one.
Yes.
The Swedish K is... Oh, that's a fucking beautiful gun. It's one of the smoothest shooting subguns ever. I absolutely love that gun. It's try one. You know, if you're ever out in Phoenix, come by and see us. It'll be worth a trip to the range to shoot the fucking thing. It's the sweetest subgun ever made. I think the MP5 is a beautiful gun, and it's an iconic.
That's everybody's
piece.
answer usually.
Nah, Swedish K. You know, but look, remember my age. What was one of the biggest guns that the special forces used in Vietnam?
Swedish K.
Yeah.
The Swedish K, because it fucking worked really well. Yeah.
So I'm going to caveat, and I'm going to ask you an off base one. So we're sitting. So age, we're all 3 different age. We're all sitting around a campfire, and we just wrapped up hearing history on AK smooth bores and all that good stuff. And you pull. Magically, we have an extension cord, so you plug up your amp and you pull that Les Paul off the wall. What's the first song you'd play? What you go? Comfort, yes, some Pink Floyd.
There we go.
Oh, man,
the guitar solo in "Comfortably Numb" is probably the finest piece of music I personally think was ever written.
Yeah.
You know, the guitar that was played on when they auctioned it off, it went for, I think it was $3.3 million.
Oh,
just because it was the guitar that played, well, not only that song, many other famous Pink Floyd songs, but that solo in "Comfortably Numb," when somebody, you know, there's a saying in guitar playing that about when somebody knows how to play a guitar that can tell a story, that's telling a story.
Yeah.
You know, there's guys that can riff 90 miles an hour and just, you know, be technically impressive and cover all the different scales all throughout the world and this and that. And that's all a fucking amazing thing. But when you can tell a story with a guitar and it's still popular after all these years, that's fucking talent.
It's amazing where everyone wants the newest and latest and greatest when it comes to guitars. When you know, other instruments like drums, nobody's really looking for a vintage set. Maybe a Gretsch set every now and then. Maybe someone's looking for something. But for the most part, nobody looks for vintage until you get into the guitars in a band. Maybe a couple mics, but they don't make pickups like they used to. They don't make tube amps like they used to. And it's crazy that it can't be recreated.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of unusual in that regard, but it's progress. It's kind of how things go these days, you know. Gibson made really good, you know, I mean, my Les Paul, it's an 82. You know, people with, you know, with 59 would turn their nose up at it and go, peasant gun, you know. But it's still a pretty nice gun. And I do have some other stuff around here. They're not really visible at the moment, but they're a little bit more modern and mild. But that's everything has its purpose, you know.
For sure.
All right. Well, Jim, unfortunately, I think it's starting to come to the end, but we really want to thank you for joining us on Whiskey and Windage. It's been an
For sure.
honor. You're kind of a as an AK guy myself, you're kind of up there on a pedestal for me, and it's been an honor to have you on my show. So,
And thank you,
anybody
Matt.
who's still
I
listening,
appreciate that. Thank you. I
anybody who's
truly
still
do. Thank
listening,
you.
make sure to go check out Jim at fullerphx.com. You can also find them at FullerPHX on Instagram, and keep up with
That's
all
Fuller
the
Phoenix
builds.
Official on Instagram. Fuller Phoenix
Oh,
Official.
Well, Jim, we do want to thank you for coming on, man. Don't be a stranger when the time is right and new things are happening over there. You're always welcome back to come back and talk about them and show them off and do all that good stuff. Please do.
Well, things are coming, and I'd be honored to come back.
Yeah.
We have a few things coming. We haven't been sitting around for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been doing stuff, but we've been doing it in a way where we didn't want to release until things were ready, and we're just about at that point right now. I think we can safely, somewhere around the end of the year, I expect that somebody's going to get a real big surprise here real soon, and I'd love to share it with you guys when we're ready to go.
Yeah.
You know?
That's amazing. That is amazing. Well, as always, thank you. And Matt, you can go ahead and wrap us up, brother.
all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. If you got a question for Jim, leave it down there in the comments. I'll make sure it gets over to him. And if you're on Spotify, leave us a little review. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you.